stacks on her mind, grinding all day, hustle refined, chatter is ceiling, G steers and obtain. Boss is a title, wealth is a game.
Hiring community. Please feel free to jam with us. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been in the club. Come on. But welcome back to the Hiring Woman podcast. And if you've been riding with us for a while, you'll know I love connecting music to the song. And for those of you who've never listened to our podcast before, this podcast is dedicated to making financial conversations accessible for hiring women, just so that they can make confident financial decisions and live the life they truly deserve. And I really want you to sink into that, because we've been listening to the sounds of Cav Bauhauser. As I said, I don't know this artist, but I got a chance to check out my playlist and check out my Spotify playlist to see what's available that would be great for this particular episode. So this particular song is a collab. It features Cav Bauhauser and Jamila. And the song we've been jamming to, hopefully you were jamming with us, is Do This Together. So what do you think of the song? It brought me back to the clubs, but I did choose the song, as I mentioned, for a reason. And I want you, hiring community listening, I want you to think about this particular feeling if you're a parent. So hiring community, as a parent, do you sometimes feel like your children see you as their personal ATM? Anybody out there have that experience? I know as a financial planner, I've talked to clients about this a lot. And it looks like this. When their kids want something and they say no, the child's response is, just take it from that, that machine over there. Just take it out. Take it from that machine. They know that machine. They know that ATM. You're their personal ATM, but you can take it from that ATM. And they don't realize, because they think that structure, that machine, you have unlimited storehouses of money. Do you feel like that? Anyway, my response to clients when they talk about feeling this way is, why do your kids think that? And have you actually had the money conversation with them? Are you even teaching them to respect money? So again, the song I chose, Do This Together, is really to say to all of you parents who might have that feeling of being an ATM, but not doing anything about it, not having the money conversation, is you can't leave it up to the child to learn about money on their own. You, parent, need to teach them solid money habits. And I actually have the perfect guest who's been jamming over there with me. Like, you got some moves, Maya. So honestly, I feel like we definitely need to go to the club after that. But I think you're the perfect guest to dive into the subject today. Maya Corbic, for those of you who don't know, she is a financial educator. She's an author. She's a CPA. She's a CA, and she's a mom. And she's been helping families build lifelong money habits. And Maya, warm welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Jackie. This is probably like the most fun intro I've ever done on a podcast before, and I'm definitely ready to go clubbing. So yeah, this is awesome.
Well, good. I actually want to start off because you're actually not a, financial educator as your first time profession. So I'd love to know what inspired you to decide that you're going to leave whatever you were doing before, your CPA job, and do financial education full time. So what inspired that for you?
Yeah, so I actually used to work for Deloitte and Touche as tax in tax and audit, and I did all that wonderful stuff. But once a year, we would go to schools and we would teach financial literacy, and it was those times when I was teaching that would just totally light me up. And I would come home, and my husband would say to me that he would he would see me at my happiest on those days when I volunteered and did the teaching. But I think, you know, because I was at Deloitte for such a long time, I've had some high net worth clients. And what I realized is that with some of them, even though they were making great amounts of money each year, there was not much left at the end of the year. And they were struggling to make ends meet. And I couldn't really understand that because I am a first generation immigrant and I grew up struggling. Uh,
As did
but
I.
yeah, and so it's kind of hard for someone who grew up in poverty to understand how can someone that's making at least six figures not be able to make ends meet. And the more I kind of looked into that, I realized that the issue was because these people didn't really know anything about money. And I think the big word of what you said is something really resonated with me when that you mentioned just at the very beginning. You said they didn't know how to respect money. The word respect. Uh, and so I realized they didn't know how to respect it. They didn't know how to manage it. But it wasn't necessarily just their fault. They didn't learn this in their childhood. And at that time, my kids were very little. They were 4 and 6 years old. And I actually started trying to understand what do they know about money. And I realized they didn't know much. At that time, that was 13 years ago. I also realized that the schools were not really teaching much in terms of financial literacy. And so
Exactly.
that's kind of how I really got into this. I started teaching my own kids. Pretty soon, other people were asking me to teach their kids. And then I was going to schools and doing workshops. And it was just one thing leading to the next.
Yeah, I could see how having children in particular could, and seeing what happens to people when they don't have great, as you said, they don't have great respect for money, right? Because I have this mantra: if you don't respect money, money doesn't respect you. So they were acting like their money was unlimited, like that ATM. And so, of course, their kids think money is unlimited. So I would love, especially because we're talking about these high earning individuals, let's talk about the big picture here and why you think, in particular, it's so important, especially for high earning women who are listening, why they need to teach their kids about money early.
Well, the thing is that their children are probably used to certain kind of lifestyle. And
Mm.
that is not how average person lives. So when they become adults and they are on their own, unless they know how to manage and, as you said, respect that money, they're going to find themselves in a lot of trouble. So it's really important to embed those money management skills early and have these kids practice those skills and proper decision making when it comes to money while they're younger, while they have our oversight and we can properly guide them so that when they become adults and when they're independent, they can go on and live their best lives and, work towards becoming financially independent and, build their wealth.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that often parents that I've spoken to worry, and unlike what you said, that they worry that talking about money too early will make kids obsessed with it. And I wondered what your take was on that.
I don't think that's true. In all these years that I've been teaching kids about money, I don't think that's really true. I do notice that kids are very curious about money. They want to learn about it. As soon as they understand that money buys things, and they see their parents, as you said, like spending like using their credit card or debit card to pay for things, kids like to imitate that. They
Mm.
are very curious about the adult world and they want to understand it. So the sooner we can actually try to explain some of these things to them and how they work, the better off they will be.
And I think I agree. I mean, that's been my experience as well, because I've run some of those financial literacy camps, especially for at-risk young people and in the school system. And I find that kids don't get obsessed with money, but they're very interested. They're very enthusiastic to learn, especially when they understand how much freedom understanding money gives them. And I now want to kind of, because I think there's different money lessons that you learn at different ages, or that would be helpful to learn at different ages, especially if we don't want them to get obsessed. And so let's actually get practical around that. What are some simple ways you think that parents can start teaching kids about money at different ages?
So I can start as early, and sometimes people are really surprised when I tell them this. I can start as early as toddlerhood. So,
Mhm.
yes, yeah. And so there are some lessons that we teach them, but they are not exactly money lessons, but they're related to money. So, number one is taking care of their toys and their possessions, not smashing their toys,
They-
not destroying them. It's all about respecting the belongings, the stuff that we spent money on. And so, if they can learn how to cherish what they have, they will be more grateful later on, and of course, they will be spending less later on.
You know what? That you
Yes.
just need to say that twice, girl, because I think going back to that whole respecting money, and if you don't respect money, money doesn't respect you, teaching toddlers that caring for money, like being careful and caring for money through, as you said, play and through toys. I love that.
Yeah. And so as they get a little bit older, when they're able to share, so as toddlers, I was told by, I actually worked with some, I guess, professionals that actually understand the child development, but they say that later on when they're actually capable of sharing, teaching kids how to share is an important lesson because it translates to donating money and giving, and also understanding that maybe some people have less than we do. So we can help them out by donating and helping out. So yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say great life lessons, right? That you wouldn't necessarily think a toddler or, a 6-year old might be, ready to learn.
Right. Yeah. And so even a 4 and a 5-year-old, I actually I have taught needs versus wants to that age group, and they're fully capable of understanding it. They understand that needs are things we need for survival, wants are nice to have, but we don't need them for survival. At that age group, it's a little bit hard for them to comprehend the gray areas like sneakers, right? Like we all
Right,
need shoes, but we don't need Air Jordans, right?
right, right.
But they're able to comprehend needs versus wants. They are also able to understand that if you give them money, money buys things, and once money is gone, it's gone. So you can even start allowance with them. And there are 4 different types of allowance, by the way, so it just depends on which one works best for you and your family. But they can understand that if you choose the chores allowance method, that can actually teach them the work habits. And so, let's say if you decide to do chores and you ask them to, put away their laundry in the laundry bin, they start to develop those work habits and understand that by working they can actually earn money. They're fully capable of doing that.
So let's just quickly go through that roadmap for teaching kids money based on that age range. So you're saying younger kids, we can't necessarily teach them the fine arts of money, but we can teach them sharing
Yes,
and we can teach them to care for money.
right.
Older ages. So what about like 7 through 12 age group?
7 through 12, we can definitely teach them to, like, what's a bank, what's an ATM,
Mhm.
how does the money. It's really interesting because sometimes I had to really explain to the kids how does the money actually get to the bank account, because they understand that ATM is connected to the bank account, but I remember grade ones had a very hard time understanding that, oh,
Mhm.
my parent works and my parent puts in hard work, and that's how they earn money, and that's how the money ends up in the bank account, so we can draw it via ATM machine. So I have done some visual workshops like that because they sometimes they have trouble connecting that, but as they get
Yeah.
older they understand it. Yes,
So are you saying between 7 to 12, we can talk to them about bank accounts and where like the ATMs and where money goes?
absolutely,
And you're
yes.
saying even earlier. So even in that, like what age would we start giving allowances tied to chores? Is it in that? What age
Allowance, so
range?
you can start in kindergarten. They're ready in
Mhm.
kindergarten. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can just, when you give the allowance is a tool. A lot of times people think it's a gift. It's not a gift, it's a tool
Yeah.
that teaches kids how to manage money. And the dollar values are very low. So even if they make a mistake, it's okay because we want them to learn from those mistakes. And they are learning with your oversight. So, and then you can, when you give that allowance, then you can ask the child to divide that money into 4 different buckets. So, save, spend, invest, and donate.
Right, right. I love that. Save, spend, invest, donate. Okay. And then what about teens? You said that, with the let's say 7 to 12-year-olds, you can start introducing them to the whole bank and where money comes from. What are some good lessons for the teens?
Yeah. So before I get into things, I just want to mention for the previous age group that you just mentioned, you can start teaching them budgeting. A really good way to teach them budgeting is help them budget for their own birthday party or back to school shopping.
Ooh, like we're doing right now, back to school.
Exactly. So they're fully capable of that. They can learn how to spend money wisely. So use of the coupons, price match and all that. And then for the teenagers, absolutely, getting into more of investing and learning how the money can work for them and understanding of the passive income. They can learn about entrepreneurship. Even younger kids can learn about entrepreneurship as well. But with respect to the teenagers, they can learn how to write their resume and, apply for jobs and learn interview skills. They can understand negotiating. And so we can teach them how to properly negotiate, especially if they're going, they're applying for a job and they're negotiating their salary.
Right, right. I love that. So investing is a big category there where they can start experimenting, maybe setting up a one of those online accounts where they can, you can help them with making investment decisions to get their feet wet. I know actually that's something I'm seeing with my clients. Their kids are working part-time and they're like, okay, Jackie, I want to set them up with investing. We're facilitating those kinds of conversations with the teenagers because they want their kids to not, like I did, earn all this money part-time working and have nothing to show for it in the end except some horrible stitches clothes that I have no idea what happened to. Either the store stitches, is it still around? Community, let me know. And of course, I have no idea what happened to that money. If only I had those money habits. Really enjoy that. Now, for high earning parents, I find that it's really easy because they have the cash when it comes to some of these expenses. Instead of teaching their kids to budget, even like what we're talking about now, it's back to school time. It's easy to just say, okay, what do you need? And cover everything. It can really be tempting. How do we avoid kids missing out on learning some of these lessons by not needing money?
Yeah, that's a very hard thing. And I know that a lot of high earning parents struggle with it. So one thing that I've done with my children is I would actually get them, say we're talking about back to school shopping. And so I asked my daughter, I said, can you write down everything that you want for the school year? And so she wrote down this list. And then I said, okay, can you divide this between needs and wants? Like what's an actual need that you need for school and what's a want?
Right.
And then so I said, okay, I'll cover the needs, but for the wants, I said I'll cover. I think I gave her an amount. I forget exactly how much. I said I'll cover this much. So maybe it was, I don't know, $50 or something. And I said, but I'll give you an opportunity to earn money. She's older, by the way, so she's a teenager, but I think this can also be done with some younger kids as well.
Right.
And I said, I have some jobs for you. And, I have an Instagram account and I post every day. And so I need somebody to help me with the content creation. I
These
need you to
youngins are
edit.
great at
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah. I need you to edit my videos. And so because she wanted a pair of Uggs. And I was like, well, you don't really need Uggs. Needs are a want. Like that's a want. So this was actually last year. I did a whole, I guess, segment on that. And so she ended up editing my reels and she saved for months. And then she was finally able to buy those Uggs. But a funny thing happened afterwards. They ended up getting a stain on them. Accidentally. Yeah, it was like a big deal. It was all over my social media. Everybody was laughing. But you know what? And because they had a stain and it was an accidental stain that her friend actually spilled salad dressing on them, it was such a huge deal because she was in tears. She said, Mom, I worked 2 months to afford these Uggs and now they have a stain. And she was so upset. But, I bet you, if I actually covered those, just right off the bat, she wouldn't have appreciated them as much.
Not at all. She'd go, Mom, you could get another pair from that ATM machine, i.e. you. You just get
Yes.
another pair from that endless account you have over there.
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
that is fire. Because I think there's so many parents that don't actually help their kids to appreciate what it actually costs in terms of time spent, work that you had to earn that money, and for the child to have experience that feeling. That's a gift that just keeps on giving.
And let me tell you, Jackie, I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but it's a whole story because there's a lot more to this story and how it happened and the lessons that she learned just because I made her earn that money and buy those Uggs. It was actually quite funny. Funny and like it was a great learning opportunity.
Well, I love that. And you know what? High earning community, this is just an aside because I got a chance to, Maya and I have spoken at events before, and I see her daughter working hard for the money. I believe Donna Summer has a song that's called that. And she gets it. She seemed, I saw what she did to the videos that you created for all of us. And I'm like, go girl, go earn that money. I love it.
Yeah, no, she is definitely my sidekick, and she now knows kind of like what needs to be done, and it's really great. Like she really values the dollar. But let me tell you, she started off as one of those kids, and we all have different money personalities. So she started off as a child who was a natural spender. Like she could not even keep a penny in her wallet, and she was also a giver. She loved to give money to people, which is a nice trait. But when we had kids come over for play dates and walk away with her pocket money, it was kind of like time to be like, okay, you know what, we don't have to give money to everybody or give money to charity. I literally had other parents call me and they were like, so should I be like returning this money? And I'm like, no, keep it, because she needs to learn that like all her money is gone and she has nothing. Next time we go to Toys R Us and her brother is spending some of his money, she's got nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like a balance, right? Giving is important, but like your friends didn't ask you for money. Why are you paying for their friendship? Like what's going on here? Do I need to dig in deeper?
Honestly, you've said a couple things there that I think is so essential for high earning parents to think about, which is what's your child's money personality? And that being said, what money lessons do you need to teach them? Because all your kids aren't the same. So what's your child's money personality? What do they need? What do you need to teach them based on that? I think very, very crucial. Just you talking about your daughter's your money learning journey of you not being the ATM is just an amazing conversation for our community to hear. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And if I may just add to that, so you hit on something that's really important. A lot of parents don't realize that if you have multiple children, you will not be teaching them about the money in the same way because of, as you said, their money personality. Some of them are naturally born spenders, some of them are savers, but also you have to take into consideration their learning style. Yeah. Some kids learn better by doing. Some kids are actually just good listeners. They'll listen to what you say and they will do it. So you have to understand your child. But the most important thing here is to also understand your own family values. And so whatever it is that you're teaching them, it needs to align with your family values. Agreed. So our family values are, we treat money in a way like we like balance. So we like to spend, but we also like to save and take care of our future. So I have a child, my other child was a natural saver. And everybody was like, oh, you're so lucky because he just saves money. And I was like, no. It was not a good thing because he would just hoard money. He didn't want to part with it.
Yeah, I know that's so.
Yeah, so it was like, okay, no, honey, it's okay to give to charity. It's okay to buy gifts for other people for their birthday. And so we literally had kids on two opposite sides of the spectrum, and we had to bring them to the middle. And, it took years. And this is another thing that parents don't understand is like, it's constant repetition. You're repeating yourself over and over again, but then eventually it starts to sink in. And
it's a habit, right?
Yeah, it's a habit. And yeah.
Be repeated so they actually get ingrained, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Honestly, I think as you were talking about that, I just think of all of the parents that we've worked with that have these different personalities, the spender or the saver. So the spender, as you said, you have to teach them that they need a budget, and money isn't endless. And then there's the saver, who you have to teach them that it's okay to spend, as you said, money on yourself, or money on donating money. So different lessons to learn, different age ranges that they need to learn them. And you parent different children differently, is what I'm getting from our conversation. So thanks for sharing that. Now, finally, if there's a parent listening right now and they might feel overwhelmed by all the things we've talked about, but they do want to start talking to their kids about money this week after back to school, what's one simple money conversation or activity you think they can start with their child?
This is something that all parents can do. And, a lot of times parents ask me, do you have a workbook? Do you have this? I'm like, yeah, I have all that. But here's one thing that everyone can do. Just start sharing what you're doing with money every day. You may think that your child understands, or you're just doing an autopilot. You're not even thinking about sharing it with them, or you may think that they will not understand it, but share it. So I'll give you a couple of examples. One of them is a really good friend of mine. They ended up, they have like a rental property, and I think she was having a hard time finding a tenant for it. But by the time she found one, she told me, this is years ago when her daughter was very little, and she said to me, oh, my daughter said, oh, mommy, this is great. Now we have all this money coming in and we can go spend it. And so she thought, she's like, oh, it doesn't, I think she said something like, oh, it doesn't work like that, and just sort of dismissed her. But then she said to me, I know you always tell me to talk to my kids about money, and to talk to them like pretend I'm their age and try to explain it at their age level. So she said, oh, I went back to that. And so I said to my daughter, well, it doesn't work like that. We're getting this money, but out of this money, I still have to pay the mortgage. I still have to pay property tax. I have to pay for electricity. So she was able to explain it to her in a way that her daughter was able to understand. And then her daughter said, oh, I really thought that we could go shopping and go to Toys R Us. Yeah. And so she actually understood that really there's only a little bit of money left, and maybe her parents want to do something else with that money, right? So it's those everyday activities that we do. We just need to narrate them and explain to our kids what we're doing and why we're doing.
It's so interesting you say that. I was thinking back to comedians in cars drinking coffee. I don't know if you've seen Seinfeld's comedian.
Oh, I've seen it once, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had Chris Rock on, and they were just having coffee in his car, his beautiful cars, that I'm sure he writes off as a tax deduction, but that's another day. But anyway, and Chris Rock was talking about the challenges of being a high earner and having children who feel entitled to his money. And so he was saying he said he was driving with his kids one day, and they're like, Daddy, are we rich? And he said, no, I'm rich. And I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, I've got money. You do not have money. You're going to have to earn your own money, just so you know. So he kind of broke it down like that versus the rental person who explained, which obviously that's a much better way to help kids understand. But he was like, no, take your hands off my money even before you made your own money.
But my husband jokes around with the kids all the time. I mean, he jokes, but I think there's definitely a lot of seriousness to it. He's like, I'm planning on dying with zero. So he's like, he's like, you guys will get something, but a little bit. But he goes, he's like, the rest is for me to enjoy my life. He's like, I've been working hard. Mom and I have been working hard. Don't count on it. Just build your own fortune. We'll show you how we did it. And that's it.
I think that's what Chris Rock was trying to get to. So I appreciate that you probably have a similar philosophy, because honestly, sometimes what happens with children who feel entitled, who don't learn those money lessons, there's this saying in the financial industry that the first generation makes the money, then they don't necessarily pass on those habits. So the second generation might keep the money, and then the third, by that time, there's nothing, there's no habits, there's no values. So the third generation just loses it. And we see it in high earning families like Eaton's, and I could go on, but you get the idea. So I can't agree with you more. And I hope that the community that's listening to this understands the importance of passing on those habits and values to the next generation. So, some firing round questions that I have, and I wanted to get into a special round of the firing round. And this is just for higher earning listeners. So, just quick answers is all you need. Are you ready?
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay. So, one of the questions I get asked a lot is private school or not? What money lessons do high earning parents still need to teach at home?
I think the biggest one is gratitude, being grateful for what you have, understanding that what you have is not normal. Most people don't live like that. If you can travel, or not even travel, go to the parts of the city where you live, where people are living in difficult conditions. Show that to your kids. Make them grateful for what they have.
Yeah, I think gratitude, it also helps. I mean, gratitude apparently is great for mental health. So, important life lesson to pass on. Couldn't agree with you more. Okay, the next one. Should wealthy parents talk openly about family wealth with their kids? Yes or no?
I would say yes.
Awesome. Okay. And what's one pitfall that you see high earning parents often fall into when they teach their kids about money?
I think, oh, that's a good one. I know it should be. I think just paying for stuff because it's so easy. Like
Yeah.
we don't even think twice about it. We just do it. Um, Maybe just stopping to think, like, do I really need to cover this whole thing? Um, I mean, I fall for it too all the time,
It,
and I
it's
catch myself. Yeah,
It's
because
easy to, and I think I see it a lot with my clients who, like you, like me, did not come from money. So they're the first generation that's now a high earning family, and they don't want their kids to suffer the way they
yeah,
did, maybe with the one toy at Christmas that we thought was like such a disservice, right? And we think it's a way of caring for our children, but not realizing it might create harm for them when they don't learn these lessons and they don't learn life lessons like gratitude.
yeah, and I think sometimes we try to compensate for the, as you said, like the things that we didn't have. Like just a couple of months ago, my kids' school was giving out yearbooks, and my kids didn't even want the yearbook, and I was like, "What do you mean you don't want the yearbook? I only have one yearbook from my high school years because that's the only yearbook I was able to afford.
Me too.
My parents didn't afford. My parents didn't pay for any yearbooks, so I have no yearbooks. Like a friend of mine from high school said she's got them all, and I said I'd love to see them.
Right.
So to me, I was like, oh, I mean, they both go to the same high school, so it would be the same yearbook. And here I'm like ready to dish out. I don't know, it's like over $100, I think, for two yearbooks. I was like, I have to get this for you. And they're like, but we're not even in that many photos. And I'm just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I caught myself, right?
Yeah. And
So
you know what that tells me is it's another teachable moment for you and for your child. So, community, how is your money issue or emotional issue or issue getting in the way of issues that you could be teaching your child about? So what's the intersection? Maybe I came from no money and so I want to give my children everything. Is that getting in the way of teaching my child a valuable money lesson? And have you examined that? Something to think about. So a couple more questions. How can money be used as a tool for raising grounded kids?
oh, that's a very good one. I would say gratitude keeps coming back. Understanding and respecting that money, understanding that somebody had to work hard to actually earn that money. And because, that person worked hard, then we need to respect that money and we need to give it purpose. So the purpose could be to spend it and so it provides us some joy, but then there needs to be balance and responsibility where this money needs to continue to work for us because we don't want to be working forever.
Right.
We want to, especially as we get older, have this money working for us. So we need to explain that to the kids. So I feel like it's almost like this process. It starts off with respecting it, respecting the money, but having gratitude and also understanding that we need to be smart with it and give it all these different, I guess, like actions or responsibilities for this money to do something for us.
Yeah, and as you say that, I think what a great way to do that, by telling your children your values and your money story, kind of how you, like, what you had to go through to build wealth. Like, how many children actually understand your own money story and could understand your money journey to building wealth, and how might that impact their habits in the future? As you say, all those things, all those lessons are in those stories, aren't they?
Yeah, and I actually a while back I interviewed a financial planner, or not a financial planner, I forget exactly what her title was, from the US, and she was working with top 1% wealthy families in the US, and we talked about generational wealth and wealth preservation. And she said to me that she noticed that one way to preserve that wealth and pass it from generation to generation was to share your money story. That was extremely important so that the younger generations understood how difficult it was for you to build that wealth, so they had more appreciation for it.
Yeah, I think really important thing that, not, all of us are kind of an autopilot, so you might not necessarily think that your story would be worthwhile or valuable for your children, but you could be wrong about that. And what can your story teach your child? Honestly, I have one last question for you in this, which is, if you had to choose teaching your kids about investing early or about giving generously, what would you do? What would you choose?
Investing early or giving generously?
Right.
I have to say
That's a tough one.
investing early. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm sorry. I know it sounds like I'm a horrible person.
No, I'm with you.
The reason why I say that, can I explain why I think that? It's because if you can invest early, your money can compound and you can have so much more money to give. But if you give your money, there's nothing left to give that later on. So, I mean, if your money is invested, like, it can grow so much, and you could even set up, like, I'm talking like high level now, like you could set up a foundation for giving and your own charity. But you really have to take care of yourself and your money first so that you can take care of others.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was going to say, if you said generously, I'm like, I'm going to have to, like, part ways on you on this one. We're doing battle on this one, Maya. And I'm with you. You just can't get that time back. And young people have so much time for money to grow. Hey, have more to give away later on. Have more to live on. Have more choices. I couldn't agree with you more. Okay. Finally, your mantra when it comes, what's a mantra for kids, do you think, to repeat about money? Mine is, if you don't respect money, money won't respect you. But what's yours?
I would say spend less than what you earn and invest the rest.
Spend less, high earning community, teach your kids to spend less and invest the rest. I love it.
It kind of rhymes.
I think. All right, Maya, before we wrap up, what's your one piece of advice for high earning women listening today?
I think that it's so amazing, first of all, that you've listened to this, because it shows that you care about educating your kids. And educating your kids about money doesn't need to be hard. Just use literally everyday moments to teach them. If you're negotiating your cell phone bill, have them within the earshot or explain to them what you're doing. If you get, a message on your phone and it's a scammer, don't just delete it. Actually explain to your kids why this is a scammer and what would happen if you clicked on the link that they sent you. So literally use everything that's happening to you during the day. Just talk about it. Be very open about it. And that will help your child understand money and respect it better.
Maya, this has been such a insightful conversation. So thanks for sharing so many gems, so many pieces of wisdom. And I know this is definitely a pain point I see in my practice with my high earning clients. Just talking about money is hard, but talking to your children about money sometimes feels even harder. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this. It's been a fun podcast. I love how we started off. So, yes, I wish every podcast would start off like that. Thank you for having me, Jackie.
Not a problem. I might have you back in the future. So thank you again. So that's it for today's episode of the Hiring Women podcast. And if you love this conversation, I'd love for you to stay connected. Please follow our firm's LinkedIn page at Team Jackie Porter, because that's where we share our insights, our resources, and updates that you won't want to miss. And if you'd like to keep listening to more episodes of this podcast, you can find us on all of your favorite audio platforms. We're on Spotify, Deezer, Amazon Music, Player FM, and much, much more. Just search for the Jackie Porter podcast, the Hiring Women podcast, and hit follow so you never miss a conversation. You won't want to do that. And if you're actually looking for resources to start teaching your kids about money, please check out Maya's website. We're going to link it to the show notes today. It's the start of the back to school season, so you know it's the time to embrace learning about money. And of course, to teach your child your values and your habits as well, as we've been talking about. And if you also need support on your own financial journey, or even how to have these conversations about money with your children, again, we have these conversations. We facilitate these types of conversations a lot in our practice. So please feel free to reach out to us. And as the song says, we can do this together. So until next time, remember, financial confidence starts at home, and it's never too early to teach kids how to thrive. So Confidant community, keep building, keep earning, and keep living the life you want. Be in touch soon, hiring community. Thanks again, Maya.
Thank you, Jackie. Bye.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody.
Hustle, refine, shatter and ceiling, G steers and obtain. Boss is a title, wealth is a